Hey everyone, I'm Dino Vidal, and welcome to tonight's Dino Vidal Show on Sirius XM Channel 127, Thursday, April 8th. And as always, I'm here to be your MBFF. And now we're seeing a new development with the GOP. It's remarkable to see the panic in them over losing the 2020 election, losing Arizona, losing Georgia, seeing Texas, the margin of victory, go down from 16 points in 2012 to 5 points in the last election. There's panic. So they have a new spin here. One is, and this is just laughable, that they're changing the laws in all the states because they want to make it easier for people to vote. So they're asking us to believe that they lost the 2020 election and their strategy is to make it easier to vote so they can lose more elections. Who are you kidding? But now the other more sinister, and it really is a concerted effort by the GOP, and we saw it in the National Review in an article yesterday, but we saw it before that as well, is that the less people who vote, the better it is for our democracy. They want quality, not quantity. And yesterday, National Review made headlines with an article by one of their noted writers talking about that too many people voting is not good for our democracy. That this idea that maybe the answer isn't more voters, as he wrote in there, and less voters. And it's more about quality. And you might go, well, that sounds undemocratic. Here's the reality. This is not new for the GOP. Paul Weyrich, who is known as one of the fathers of the conservative movement, the co-founder of the Heritage Foundation, which is one of the premier conservative think tanks, 40 years ago gave a speech when he said, quote, "I don't want everybody to vote. Our leverage in the election quite candidly goes up if the voting populace goes down." The GOP is always about having less people vote. The more who vote, the more we win. They understand the less who vote, the better it is for them. And again, we just saw 3 weeks ago in Arizona, a GOP state representative right there, John Kavanaugh, who said point blank, the difference between the Democrats and Republicans are Democrats want as many people to vote, and Republicans are more concerned about fraud. So we don't mind putting security measures, meaning not everybody can vote. And he said also, quantity is important, but we have to look at the quality of votes. So you have these Republican white men saying they want to decide what quality is. What do you think quality is? Skin color? So your quality is determined by your skin color? Where did we hear that before? Yeah, this is where we're going. Not just out in your face, the idea that you have to be white to vote. If they could do that, they would. They can't do that. But the idea of normalizing voter suppression and convincing people on the right, and I can promise you, you will see Tucker Carlson. I promise you, you will see Tucker Carlson, maybe tonight, in fact, maybe later this week. You will hear others on the right say the same thing, that too many people voting is not good for democracy. And the GOP base, which will agree with anything that gets them power, will regurgitate that. You're going to hear it over and over and over, just like they're gaslighting us now, saying the January 6th Donald Trump terrorist attack on our Capitol was peaceful, and the only people doing any violence were Antifa and left-wing activists who don't like Donald Trump. The lies don't stop. Pre-January 6th are lies we could ignore. After January 6th, it really is a new lie that's drumbeat to. For some, it's about violence or insurrection. The others is just gaslighting and chipping away at our democracy. This attack on voting is just as dangerous as the January 6th terrorist attack on our Capitol. They're both designed to do the same thing: overturn the will of the people and impose right-wing, undemocratic, authoritarian people as leaders of our country. There's no disputing. That's not hyperbolic. That's not over the top. That's the truth. That's what they're doing. The GOP's not all of a sudden became authoritarian. Paul Weyrich 40 years ago talked about less people who vote is better for the GOP. We've seen documented by experts that over the years, the GOP has increasingly descended into the use of more and more authoritarian means to gain power, which just means undemocratic. The more voting, it's the more democratic you are in the spectrum of authoritarian regime versus a democratic regime. The GOP has moved more and more to the authoritarian regime. When you add the violence of January 6th, that takes us academically into the area of fascism. You have people on the right, Dan Crenshaw, the congressman, calling progressives denouncing voter suppression, that we are now the fascists. It's a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game when you're going to call the use of freedom of expression fascism. But that's where they're heading. So you've got the new lie now is that less who vote, the better it is for our democracy. Expect to hear that more and more. Expect Republicans, you'll see that in polls. So they believe voter suppression, not even subtle, just out and out voter suppression is fine because it's about quality, not quantity. You know, you want to define quality by giving people civics tests? What do you think is going to pass that? If they gave a civics test, an objective one, not slighted in any way, no Republican would win again. Democrat, we would win, because I'm not saying that we're inherently smarter, but maybe a little bit. But what I'm saying is that we're going to work harder. We're going to learn. Look at those Trump rallies. A lot of reading going on at those events? No, there's not a big reader crowd there. And yes, that's a little elitist. I'm just calling it the way it is, because 67% of white men who didn't have even a high school degree voted for Donald Trump. Doesn't mean if you don't have a high school degree, you can't be smart. You can be. But it also usually means that you're not that into academics and studying. So let's have the civics test. Let's do the mass civics test, and you can only vote if you pass the civics test. Of course, we're not going to do that. That would be a new literacy test. That would be unconstitutional. But if that's what they want to do, and if they push for it, Democrats and Republicans agree, so be it. We will win election after election. They don't want that. They just want to suppress the vote. At this point, they have no policy ideas. They're not offering people anything to help them with their lives in any way whatsoever. It's voter suppression. It's oppression of women. It's demonizing transgender Americans and taxes for the wealthy, but they can't do that right now. That's it. GOP stands for nothing else. So we'll talk about that more in my show. My show's live 6 to 9 p.m. on Sirius XM channel 127. As I say every night, if you don't subscribe to Sirius XM, go to the website. There are free trials right on the website. Click on it. Get a free trial. Tune into my show, channel 127, 6 to 9 p.m. Call and be a part of our family. We've got a lot of work to do. If you want progress, stay active. Thanks for tuning into the preview of tonight's Dino Budala Show.